We shall start our discussion today on the positive displacement pump. We have discussed about the working principle of rotodynamic pumps, and we have seen that radial flow pump, axial flow pump, which falls in the category of rotodynamic pump, and their working principle essentially depends on the rotating element of the pump, and that is the impeller. So, when we talk about impeller, we have seen that blade angles at the inlet and outlet, and also the impeller diameter. By altering all these, we can have a change in the head that will be developed by the pump as well as the flow rate that will be discharged by the pump. But positive displacement pump is another type of pump. In fact, this particular type of pump or pumps are used in applications where we need high head and the requirement of discharge is low to moderate. So, if we now discuss about positive displacement pump, in short we call it PD pumps. Okay. And probably we have discussed the working principle of PD pump when we had discussion about the classification, pump classification. So, just to recapitulate today, a little bit of recapitulation will help us to understand again the working principle. So, the positive displacement pump and the functioning of this particular type of pump depends on the change of certain fluid volume within the machine, right. Now, just if we take an example, one radial flow pump, right, and the pump is having casing. Okay. So, now in this case we have seen that this is the rotating part, say this is rotating in this direction, and there is a continuous inflow to the pump and there is continuous outflow. Say if the pipeline connected to the pump is perpendicular to the plane of this board and there is a continuous flow through the pipeline and the liquid is going into the pump, and by virtue of this rotationality effect, pump is lifting water and it is continuously discharging to the discharge points. Now, as I said you that it is very difficult to identify a distinct fluid volume at any temporal instant which will go out through the pump as a control mass system, right. So, if you would like to have, if you like to identify a distinct fluid volume, here we need to have a control volume, and again if we consider a control volume and then there will be inlet and outlet, but it is really difficult to identify a certain fluid volume within the pump as a control mass system, wherein in the PD pump, as I said, that functioning depends on the change of certain fluid volume within the machine. And we have also discussed about one important aspect, that is the words positive displacement is coming from a fact that there is a physical displacement of the boundary of certain fluid mass as a control mass system. What is the meaning of this? As I said you that in the rotodynamic pump, whether it is axial flow pump or radial flow pump, it is really difficult to demarcate certain fluid mass as a control mass system, because here there is a continuous inflow and continuous outflow. So, this is a more like a control volume. So, in this positive displacement pump we can really identify certain fluid mass as a control mass system, and the entire fluid volume will be dispersed, will be discharged in the next temporal instant. So, the control certain fluid mass which is identified at a temporal instant, which will be having boundary, that boundary will be displaced, rather there will be a physical displacement of the boundary occupying that fluid mass in the next temporal instant. So, this is what is the fundamental difference between the positive displacement pump and the rotodynamic pumps. Rotodynamic pumps, for the rotodynamic pumps it is very difficult to isolate a fixed mass and as well as the boundary occupying that fixed mass. Reason is very simple, again I am telling there is continuous inflow to the pump and continuous outflow from the pump, whereas PD pump that is not there. So, let us now try to get into the working principle of this particular type of pump, and you know that positive displacement pump, there are many pumps which I mean fall into the category of positive displacement pump. So, say one is called gear pump, then screw pump, then vane pump, and then reciprocating pump. So, all these 4 pumps fall in the category of positive displacement pump, and all these pumps are used to supply low to moderate discharge against a very high head. Okay. So, this is what is very important to know at this point of time. So, if the requirement is like this, that the head requirement of head is very high and which is against a very low I mean not very low to moderate discharge, definitely you need to go for positive displacement pump, I mean for the successful operation of the system. Now, question is, in this particular course, as we are trying to understand the working principle, so we will be focusing on this particular type, that is reciprocating pump. Okay. So, in this particular course we will be taking what the example of reciprocating pump, which is again which is basically the positive displacement pump, and considering this example we will try to illustrate concepts by which reciprocating pump, in particular positive displacement pump in general works. Okay. So, now basically for the reciprocating pump, I mean you all have seen the reciprocating pump in your daily life. See, a very common example is that we need to go to bicycle shop very often. Why? We need to what I can say, pump air into the tube of the bicycle wheel, right. So, we use again a pump, and that is a very common example of the reciprocating pump. So, you have seen that in a a cycle shop, whether the pump will be operated manually or it will be operated or it will be driven by electric motor, that is different issue altogether, but the working principle is remaining same, that there is a piston and the piston is having reciprocating motion. So, to and fro movement of the piston, and the movement of the piston is responsible for pumping liquid from the pump itself to the tube of the bicycle wheels. So, now we will be today we will see in greater detail the working principle of the reciprocating pump. So, now I will be discussing about the working principle of reciprocating pump. Okay. So, let us to illustrate the concept of its working principle, let us first draw the schematic diagram, right. And so, we have drawn, let us now try to label different components. So, this is delivery tank, this is suction tank, this is delivery pipe, and this is suction pipe. This is basically one valve which is placed here in the delivery side. So, delivery valve, another valve which is placed at the suction side, and this is called suction valve. Okay. So, this is what is the schematic depiction. Now, using the schematic depiction we will try to explain the working principle. As I just now said you that you all have seen physically the reciprocating pump in bicycle shop. So, basically when you go to pump, rather you need to push air into the tube of the cycle wheels, then definitely need to take help of a reciprocating pump. And sometimes I really do not know whether manually operated those pumps are available today or not, but this pump also can be, I mean the pump which is used to push air into the tube of the bicycle, those pumps are normally operated manually, but again it can be operated using the electric motor. So, now question is, in this particular schematic depiction I have drawn. So, this is cylinder, you can see. So, this is pump cylinder. So, very quickly we will try to explain. Now, see, this is pump cylinder. Now, you can see there is a piston. So, this is piston, and this piston is having to and fro movement between inside the cylinder between definitely two stops. You have studied internal combustion engine, you also have studied that the piston moves between two centers, that is called top dead center and inner dead bottom dead center of the internal combustion engine. Here also the piston movement is restricted between two stops, and I did not give any particular name, but anyway that you have understood. So, the piston is having to and fro movement, and the piston here, instead of this piston also can be operated manually, that is what I was talking about, but you also can have an option to run the piston if it needs to be run for a longer time, then definitely by an electric motor, and that is connected through crank and connecting rod mechanism. Say this is crank and the radius of the crank is r, and this is what I can say, this is having rotary movement, and that rotary movement is converted to the linear movement using this connecting rod. So, this is the connecting rod. Okay. So, this connecting rod is helping, rather is allowing the rotary motion to be converted into the linear motion, and that is what you have studied in machine design course. So, what is essentially occurring inside the pump by virtue of which liquid from the suction tank should be delivered into the delivery tank, and that is what we need to understand from today's class. See, now there are two valves, and these two valves are one way valves. So, basically I can write over here, valves are one way valves, valves are one way operated valves. Okay. So, you can see the piston will be having movement between two stops. Piston, so if we now give name, that is the inner side of the cylinder and that is the outer side of the cylinder. So, this is outer end or this is inner end. You can understand when piston is moving from the inner end of the cylinder. So, this is the inner end or bottom end, and this is the outer end or the top end. So, when the piston is moving from the inner end of the cylinder to the outer end, right, inside the pump cylinder a pressure is induced, right, and that is vacuum pressure. So, basically you can see in this tank the atmospheric pressure is acting. Somehow if we can create a negative pressure inside the cylinder, that pressure difference will be acting as the driving force to make the flow occur from the suction tank to the pump cylinder, and that is what is happening. So, now our objective should be, I mean if we try to draw, so basically you can see we are playing with the change in pressure inside the cylinder through this particular mechanism, and by tuning or by modulating the pressure inside the cylinder using this crank and connecting rod mechanism, what we can do essentially we can create a pressure difference, and that is essentially acting as the driving force to have a flow from suction tank to the delivery tank. And again we will see that the by changing the pressure difference again we will be able to have complete displacement of the volume that is drawn into the cylinder during suction stroke will be discharged to the delivery tank. So, if I talk about the suction suction stroke, so the suction stroke, if we try to understand that suction stroke cylinder moves from the piston moves from the cylinder inner end to the cylinder outer end, right. So, piston moves from cylinder inner end to the cylinder outer end in the suction stroke. Because of this movement of the cylinder because of the movement of the piston inside the cylinder, a negative pressure or vacuum pressure is created. That pressure now is responsible to have a pressure difference between the suction tank and the cylinder, and the driving pressure difference allow the valve to open in this direction. So, these are one way valve. So, the natural tendency of the valve will be to remain seated over here. So, this is basically the valve location. So, this is the initial valve location, initial position, right. The moment when this pressure difference is created and that pressure difference allows the valve to open in this direction, that is one way valve, and liquid moves from suction tank into this cylinder, right. So, this is what is suction stroke. So, liquid moves from the suction tank into the cylinder by opening the suction valve, suction side valve. So, I am giving the name suction valve, right. Next stroke is, so when piston is coming, say this is one end and this is one stop, right. So, this is B and this is A. So, this is the stroke length. So, this is the length over which piston piston will have to and fro motion. Okay. Now, next stroke is, so at the end of the suction stroke, at the beginning of the suction stroke piston is at A, it slowly moves to position B. This motion of the piston causes a pressure difference between these two points, that is the suction tank and inside the cylinder, and that is why you are getting movement of the liquid. Next stroke is, so when piston is at B, that is at the end of the suction stroke, this is continuous movement. So, next stroke will be delivery stroke. So, delivery stroke, okay. So, next stroke is delivery stroke. What will happen? So, now see, piston is now having certain fluid volume, certain fluid mass. So, the amount of fluid has, certain amount of fluid has reached, certain amount of fluid has already there inside the cylinder. So, at the end of the suction stroke, what is done? The entire objective was to draw certain amount of liquid from suction tank into the cylinder, right, and that is what is there. Since this valve is one way valve, when piston is reaching at location B, then pressure inside the cylinder will be very close to the atmospheric pressure and the driving force will not be there almost, as a result of which what will happen, the piston will sit in its original position. So, and the moment when piston is sitting in its original position, there will not be no liquid flow either from suction tank to the cylinder and cylinder to the suction tank. A common tendency will be a liquid will go back to the suction tank, but the piston will not allow to do so, right. So, next piston is suction valve is remaining in this position. So, suction valve will not allow to do so, and in the beginning of the delivery stroke what will happen, piston will now proceed from location B to location A, and the movement of piston from location B to location A, what will happen? The cylinder is occupied with certain fluid mass, piston is now creating thrust on the fluid mass that is there inside the cylinder, suction valve is remaining closed, right. So, liquid cannot go back to the suction tank anymore. What will happen? The pressure inside the cylinder will build up because of the forward movement of the piston, that is the movement of the piston from outer end of the cylinder to the inner end of the cylinder. That pressure will now allow delivery valve to open, again this is one way valve. So, the delivery valve will open and liquid will eventually go to the delivery tank through the delivery pipe, right. So, this is how the cycle is getting completed. Now, you can understand this crank is rotating, say if the crank is rotating with angular velocity omega, right. So, now depending on the crank rotation we can have amount of liquid that will be discharged from the suction tank to the delivery tank and the cycle will be completed. So, delivery stroke, what will happen? Liquid inside the cylinder will move to the delivery tank by opening the delivery valve, right. So, this is what is there during suction stroke and this is what is there in during pump operation during delivery stroke of the pump operation. Okay. So, now we have seen that essentially having a to and fro movement of the piston between these two locations which is connected to a crank, the piston is connected to the crank by through this connecting rod. What we can do? We are essentially altering the pressure inside the cylinder in both strokes, that is during suction stroke as well as delivery stroke. So, if we try to, our objective should be fine. Now, we have understood physically. Okay. So, if we try to bring the piston from location A to location B, we are trying to create a negative pressure inside the cylinder which is less than the atmospheric pressure. Since the liquid in the suction tank atmospheric pressure is acting on the liquid volume in the suction tank, that pressure difference will allow liquid to move from suction tank by overcoming the force required to open that suction valve, right. And when piston is coming at position B at the during the end of the suction stroke, pressure inside the cylinder will be very close to the atmospheric pressure, almost there is no driving force. So, liquid flow from suction tank to the inside to the cylinder will stop and driving force across the valve will be almost nil, and due to the inertia as the valve is having a common tendency to sit or to remain closed, the valve will closed, and as a result of which the liquid will not be allowed to go back to the suction tank. And the next stroke is delivery stroke. When delivery stroke will start, the piston will now create a thrust on the liquid volume that is there inside the cylinder, and because of that a pressure will build up inside the cylinder, and that pressure will allow the delivery valve to open and liquid will eventually go to the delivery tank through the delivery pipe, and that is how the cycle is completed, and it will be repeated depending on the frequency of the crank rotation. Okay. So, now as I said you, our objective should be to understand, can't we plot the pressure inside the cylinder versus the volume that is being handled by the pump. So, from there at least we will try to know what is happening. So, next objective should be to draw a plot depicting the variation of pressure inside the cylinder and liquid volume. So, let us try to draw in PV plane. Okay. So, what we are trying to understand now? We are trying to understand the variation of pressure inside the cylinder versus the volume of the liquid that will be handled by the pump, right. Now, try to understand, as I have briefly discussed this aspect, that for the positive displacement pump there is a physical displacement of the boundary of the certain liquid mass, and that is why the words positive displacement are coming. Now, you can see when certain amount of liquid is drawn into the cylinder during suction stroke, that liquid is having boundary and that liquid volume is getting discharged to the delivery tank in the delivery during the delivery stroke. So, we have seen for the radial flow and axial flow pumps, what we have seen, there is continuous inflow and continuous outflow. So, it is really difficult to demarcate certain liquid mass as a control mass system, but which is really possible over here, that you can understand the liquid mass that is drawn into the cylinder during the suction stroke, the entire liquid mass will be discharged as a control mass system. So, there is no inflow. So, when the liquid is getting discharged to the delivery tank during the delivery stroke, the suction valve is remaining closed. So, there is no inflow. So, there is no inlet. So, that is how this is control mass system. So, the word control mass system that was used to define the working principle of the positive displacement pump is justified, right. So, the liquid volume that is there, that is a control mass system. So, entire mass will be discharged to the delivery tank during the delivery stroke, okay. And there is, and when the liquid is getting discharged, there is no inflow to the system, okay. So, now you try to understand the variation of pressure and volume. So, what we have seen, that when piston starts its movement at the beginning of the suction stroke from point A towards point B, as what we have discussed that the pressure inside the cylinder becomes less than the atmospheric pressure. So, if we try to say this is one line and that is the atmospheric pressure. So, this is atmospheric pressure. Now, question is, so at the rather in the beginning of the suction stroke, pressure will slowly reduce from the atmospheric pressure, and if we say that this is the point, say this is point 1, and as the piston moves towards point B, pressure will be reduced more and more, or pressure will be increased more and more. So, that part we will be discussing. So, if the pressure, when the piston starts moving from point A to point B, definitely pressure inside the cylinder will be less than the atmospheric pressure, and that is the driving force. So, if we try to say this is the pressure line. So, this is the pressure line and this is point 2, and you can understand this is the stroke length. So, the piston movement is restricted. So, this is stroke length, volume of the stroke rather. Stroke volume. So, this is the amount of volume that will be taken, that will be drawn into the cylinder during the suction stroke, right, and equal amount of volume will be discharged during the delivery stroke. So, now another important point that I will discuss now. So, when piston is at B, so that is how I have identified by point 2. So, this is, so 1, that is the beginning of suction stroke, 2, that is end of suction stroke, right. Now, you see that at the end of the suction stroke, pressure inside the cylinder will not be equal to the pressure which identified by point A, point 1. So, pressure inside the cylinder at the end of the suction stroke is not equal to the pressure inside the cylinder at the in the beginning of the suction stroke. So, in the beginning of the suction pressure inside the cylinder, in the beginning of the suction stroke and pressure inside the cylinder in the at the end of the suction stroke, this is not same. But now for the sake of understanding, we will discuss again what are the factors, and those factors we will try to modify the diagram, but for the timing at least we are understanding that pressure inside the cylinder will be less than the atmospheric pressure, and that is responsible for the movement of the liquid from suction tank to the cylinder. And as if here we have tried to identify it, so this is the pressure difference, right. So, this is the pressure difference, and that pressure difference is responsible for the movement of the liquid from suction tank to the cylinder, and as if the pressure difference is remaining same throughout the stroke, and throughout the stroke there will be liquid movement, but that is not the case in reality. We will discuss that part soon. Now, what will happen at the end of the delivery stroke? At the end of the delivery stroke, when piston is at point B, next stroke is delivery stroke. So, at the end of the suction stroke, at the end of the suction stroke when piston is at B, next stroke is the delivery stroke, right. So, what will happen? Delivery stroke, the suction valve will be closed and piston will now start moving towards point A momentarily, because we are talking about the components which are mechanical components, right. So, basically that piston immediately will try to create a thrust on the liquid volume that is already there in the cylinder, and momentary liquid volume is remaining constant almost, because it will take some finite time to open the delivery valve. Try to understand. So, these are the you try to understand, you should have physical sense. So, there a finite time is required to open the delivery valve. We need certain amount of time, so that when the piston is now travelling from position B to position A, immediately the delivery valve will not open. So, it takes certain amount of non-zero finite time, and during that time, as if the volume inside the cylinder is remaining constant, but it is the piston is moving continuously, this movement is continuous. So, this is creating a thrust. So, as a result of which there will be abrupt change in pressure. So, this is point 3, right. So, 3 is the beginning of delivery stroke. So, you can understand that the actual beginning of the delivery stroke will start from 3, but as I told you that when piston is the piston is trying to travel from position B to position A, both the valves are closed. So, liquid volume is remaining constant at that time, but this movement is continuous. So, it will create a thrust, and because of this, because volume is remaining constant, it will, as I discussed that, we need to create the pressure difference across the valve, delivery valve, only then valve will remain, valve will open. So, until and unless that situation is developed, the volume will remain constant, there will not be no volume leakage. So, suction valve is remaining closed, delivery valve also will remain closed until unless we are creating that much of force imbalance across the delivery valve. So, because the volume is remaining constant and piston is creating thrust, so there will be abrupt rise in pressure, and that is what we have identified. Now, then delivery valve at point 3, delivery valve will start opening, and other delivery valve will open slowly, and piston is coming towards towards the point A, and delivery stroke will be completed. So, this is say 4. So, this is 4. So, end of delivery stroke, right. And when the piston is again coming at A, so pressure will fall. So, definitely that pressure again new stroke will start. If new stroke, that is new suction stroke will start. So, if new suction stroke starts, then again pressure will come to point A. So, this is the case. So, this is how the entire cycle is getting completed, right. So, now again I am telling 1, 2, 3, 4. So, this is a very simple diagram to understand how the pressure is changing inside the cylinder against the volume of the liquid being displaced or discharged by the pump. Now, you see that I would like to discuss one important point today, that as I told you, is it possible that the pressure difference towards the end of the suction stroke will be pressure difference, that is the difference between pressure that is the pressure at the suction tank and pressure inside the cylinder. So, definitely when piston is reaching towards the end of the suction stroke, pressure difference will reduce. Because of this pressure reduction in the pressure difference, liquid movement will be stopped. So, definitely this diagram is giving us an indication as if the pressure difference between the cylinder and the suction tank is remaining constant. So, that is not the case, right. So, this simplified analysis, simplified diagram needs to be modified. So, this diagram should be modified, and also another two important effects we did not consider. What are those effects? First of all, when liquid is moving from suction tank to the pump cylinder, it is passing through the suction pipe. So, we need to consider frictional losses. Also the liquid inertia, which is very important. So, when piston is travelling from point A to point B during the suction stroke, pressure inside the cylinder falls below the atmospheric pressure. So, liquid will start moving. When liquid will start moving, liquid inside the suction pipeline is having inertia. So, that effect due to inertia we also need to take into account. So, first of all, effect of inertia due to liquid volume in the cylinder as well as in these relevant pipelines, and the effect due to friction. So, frictional losses should be taken into account. So, that means, if we try to superimpose number 1, that is inertia effect, and frictional losses. If we should consider these two effects, and if we try to consider these two effects, this diagram should be modified. So, this simplified diagram, this very simple diagram and simplified analysis does not take into account these two effects. If we consider these two effects, and then this diagram will be modified, and we will see that during the end of the suction stroke, pressure difference between suction tank and the cylinder is not same as the pressure difference between the cylinder and suction tank we had during the at the beginning of the suction stroke. So, considering these two effects, if we modify the curve, and that we will try to mimic the actual scenario that is there during the pump operation, and the modified diagram considering these two effects we shall take up in the next class. So, with this I stop here today. Thank you.